Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, highlighting that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group at Life Transformation Radio Community and never miss an episode by subscribing where you listen to podcasts. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, Himalaya app, Google Podcasts, and we're available on Pandora. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel at Life Transformation Radio. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing people impacting everyone around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, go ahead and give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, I want to welcome my amazing guest for today, Marie Roberts de la Parra. Hopefully I said that correctly. Marie, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Yes, hello, Sean. How are you today?
I'm doing amazing. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited to be talking to you today. Thanks for having me on.
I am super pumped, super excited. I met you at National Publicity Summit, and I was just like, yes, like absolutely, like, let's do a show together. And you absolutely just completely nailed everything that I look for in a guest, and I just wanted to have you on the show so that we could just dive into your story.
Well, I can say that I have watched your TED Talk and heard your amazing story, so I am just elated to be here with you today. So, yes, let's get going.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So the title of this episode is Tips to Increasing Your Personal Power with author Marie Roberts de la Parra. Marie is an accomplished speaker, author, founder, consultant, thought leader, and leadership expert with more than 20 years of success across finance, education, energy, sustainability, nonprofit development, and construction management. Leveraging extensive expert knowledge in leadership development, personal power development, education, and business mentoring, she is a valuable asset to companies looking for core culture development, turnaround, governance, and performance. A power coach and a chief emotional officer, she is the creator of the Life Energy Management Program at Wait a Green Minute. Marie is a prolific writer and has written articles for magazines and newspapers and is a contributor to various genres for knowledge sharing that include leadership, personal development, well-being, environmental factors, education, finance, water and energy efficiency, and community and economic development. She is the author of the Amazon #1 bestseller in spirituality and one of the 100 co-authors to the Amazon bestseller in 3 categories, One Habit. Marie is a doctoral candidate in organization and leadership with a current EPA appointment and has obtained state board appointments across multiple administrations. Marie has been honored to receive 16 congressional awards and host of leadership awards. Her LinkedIn and Facebook link is right there in the show notes. You can click on that and send her a friend request. Her website link is right there. Make sure that you go check that out. And so, Marie, the first question that I have to ask, and I believe is the most important question you could ever ask yourself, is why? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I would say that I do what I do first because I want so much to help other people, and I love what I do. And my journey started out, I would say, when I was 5, and my father became ill from an airborne environmental toxin, and that set me, on a unknown path that I was on to really get engaged in so many different areas, with the number one being the environment and the impact that having issues with the environment, what it can do to the individual. And from there, it just opened so many doors for me that made meaning of, the loss of my father, and just it just was transformative for my life. And that was just not the only transformative moment, but it was such a catalyst for everything that I am now engaged in.
Wow. That is an amazing why. And I think there's a lot of different layers to that as well. I can hear the energy in your voice when you talk about how that transition, that moment, that transformation we always speak of. I just believe that when things happen to us, it's that moment that puts us on that path. Right? Had that not happened, maybe you would have been doing something different. Maybe you would have been a banker. Maybe you would have been a corporate trainer. Maybe you would have been a farmer. Who knows? Something, right? But it's these moments,
it's funny
collection
that you
of
mentioned
moments.
Farming. Yeah, it's so funny that you mentioned farming because, I actually love being on farms and engaging with animals and wildlife. And I absolutely do think that if it wasn't for the path of losing my father and the experience that I learned, that I definitely would not have been put into the position of, getting appointments, as you mentioned before, to the Environmental Protection Agency, because I learned so much about, what was happening in the environment, how important it is, just the hand washing that is so much of the topic right now, how that can affect your health. And it just did so many, things to my mindset and my emotional well-being, and the power of understanding that. And it also set up for future moments that I would need such enormous strength to find my way out of situations such as the 2008 housing crisis and the effect that had on, my finances, my business, and that those moments with my father, they absolutely prepared me to dig down and dig up strength that, I didn't realize at the moment that I would have.
Mm-hmm. And I think that these transformative moments, as many or as little that we have, are always guiding our steps. So I want to ask you about your transformational moment. The topic of the show is transformation. So for you, what is a transformational moment that happened to you and it changed you in a way that puts you on the path to what you're doing today?
I brought up 2008, and when the housing crisis took place, I was a single parent raising my daughter, and I was highly involved not only in the environmental arena but also in the housing development and construction arena. And I had investment in, across the country in various communities that were for community and economic development. And the domino effect that created was such a horrific moment that I spent not only days but just weeks just crying after I would drop my daughter off at school because I had absolutely no idea, how to address what was happening. I could not, I couldn't take care of mortgages. I could not pay, the bank payments. I could not pay employees. Right. It was just a moment that I was so low that, I thought that it was impossible to get up, from that. And I had commitments that I made prior to even thinking that anything like that was imaginable, that it could actually happen to me. And I decided, and this was really a transformative moment for me, that it was not only necessary that I figure out how to get to those appointments without having, any liquidity, having credit cards that were totally maxed out and unusable, how I was going to get to destinations across the country with no place to stay, no way to pay a hotel bill, or to even get myself back and forth to where I needed to be. But I decided that I would get on a plane and I would go, which took me from California to the East Coast without having a hotel and transportation or even food to eat to get to particular meetings. And I chose in those moments to stay at the airport. I would go to meetings all day, and I would come back and stay. I would take a nap during the day at the airport, and I would then stay there all night for 3 to 4 days in order to get meetings that I felt were critical to me turning things around. And,
wow.
and that, for me, was not only transformative, it gave me such courage and belief that if I could get through this, that I could get through and overcome anything.
Wow. I've stayed at an airport before because my flight was delayed. I got you talk about a red eye. I was on, that red eye. We landed, first of all, we landed late. I think it was 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I was supposed to get another, changeover, whatever. Right? So there was a layover. But the airport was closed. And then they were like, oh, well, we're going to have to wait till the morning. I'm like, what? Come on. So we could put you guys up in hotels. I'm like, are you kidding? But my flight was supposed to leave in 3 hours. But it's also 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now it's 1, maybe 2. So I just stayed in the airport. That's not fun. They kick you out of the secured area. They kicked us out of the secured area and made us sit in the lobby, by ticketing. And then you could go back through security once the airport opened and things. And I'm like, no. I was like, my flight is this is where my gate says it is. And no, everybody's got to go. So there's a bunch of us that are supposed to go on this other flight. I'm just like, this is crazy. Nothing's open to eat. Nothing. I'm like, so when you're talking about staying at the airport, I definitely spent the night at the airport, and it wasn't fun. And you said you did this for 3 or 4 days?
Yes, and you are right. Not only is it not fun, extremely cold at night at the airport. Yep. And you're right. There's nothing open. You do get kicked out. You watch them roll down. At least I did roll down the gates.
Oh, yeah.
And they're cleaning the airport. I got every element of what it's like to see the airport transform from what it looks like when it is full of travelers to it being just empty and silent at night, and all that you're hearing or seeing is the cleanup crew at the airport, and they're looking at you wondering, why are you still here, and knowing that they saw you the night before. This was the experience that I was having. And I said that I couldn't have shame, in the moment. I felt that, I thought about it. I said, this is, not a moment that I wanted anybody to know about. I didn't even tell my family what I was doing. They thought that I was leaving, as I did on prior business trips, and staying at, a 5-star hotel, and that everything was great. They were literally calling me every day, ask me how was my business trip going, when, it just wasn't a good experience. But I needed to create the experience in my mindset of how I needed it to be. I needed to understand in my mind, how great. And that's where I started at. And that is what gave me the ability to stay there regardless of not having anything to eat. And what I told myself is that I am on a fast. And, this is going to really, help me to clean up my thinking, and, I'll be even more fit. Those are the things that I would tell myself.
Man.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have to know, what was the moment? There's always this, and I know when it happened to me, you have these moments where you first start out in business and you're not really positioned well. You're still trying to figure it out, and there's a bunch of no's. Nope, we're not going to do business with you. Nope, you're not going to get that contract. Nope. All these doors, just closing. And all of a sudden you get a yes, and then a couple more no's.
Yes.
And then you get a couple more yeses. And then you get a no. Then you get a lot more yeses. And then you get a lot more yeses. Maybe a no, but you get a lot more yeses and a lot more yeses and a lot. Like, what was the swing? Do you know the moment where things just kind of started falling in place, where it was working? Because that work ethic, that the hustle, the grind, nobody wants to sleep in an airport, but that's just something you have to do. What was that moment?
Yeah,
do you remember?
Yeah, and I can tell you that sleeping at the airport is first not for the weak at heart, because it's not pleasant, it's not fun,
No.
It is not something that I actually recommend doing. But there was a moment when I said, God, please help me to see my way through this. And in those moments when I was praying, I could see from going to the meetings that I was having, and not the first trip that I did and I had that experience, and not the second, but as I kept doing it, I could see that things were turning around. And this was maybe 7 months into this. And I could see that not only were things turning around, but that there was so much power in the experience that I was having. And I will tell you that one of the things that happened was that under these conditions and under the circumstances that I was dealing with, and the way that I elected go out and venture into the unknown, because it really was unknown as to what could be the end result, I got an email, and it was for the opportunity to be appointed to the Environmental Protection Agency by the Obama administration. And I was informed that there were 238 applicants for only 8 open board seats on a 30-board appointee. And so I decided that based upon what I was going through, that I should go ahead and submit the information with all odds appearing to be against me. And out of those 8 open board seats, I was selected. And I knew in that moment that I had made decisions that empowered me to overcome any challenge, regardless of what it looked like, what shame that most people might think that you are supposed to experience in those moments, that was really the catalyst that really opened and started opening, and that was when I started to experience the yes, and it transformed everything.
I love that. What an amazing story. I love it. How have you come from these moments and now elevate the world around you? And you had mentioned something during our conversation at National Publicity Summit. So I'd like you to kind of go where with that, if you could. How do you elevate the world around you?
Well, one of the things is becoming a mental fortitude executive leadership coach, because one of the things that happened to me was that people would ask about my energy, how, and those that knew that I had gone on a journey that was transformative for me, they wanted to know how was I doing that. And what I would tell them is, which is part of my coaching practice, win in your thinking, you win everywhere. And so that is the practice that I developed and that I teach people to do, because what I understood was that was where most people gave up, the way they thought about it, the way that they felt that others would think about it. And so I teach people, not only through my practice, but I post on social media, I send out emails, daily power messages in order to elevate people with the power of thought. That's where you create your self-influence, where you create, which I call your personal power. It's unique to you. And most people are not focused in on how do you develop that. What is my secret sauce? What is my inner winner strategy? And that's what I focus in on and work on every day, which I love to do, which is to help people elevate themselves. And especially now with so many people dealing with, how do I stay home and work through, my environment. And one of the things that people really talk about is that they want to have time management. How do I manage my time? And I tell them there is no such thing as time management. There's only self-management, because the only thing that you have the power to manage is you. And if you do that your most effectively, you can manage anything. And so understanding who you are and how you show up in the world is your power. And that is the work that I focus in on daily. Yeah, I love it. And it means the world to me to empower people in such a way.
I love that so much. I talk about, I was at an event one time, and I asked to not go after this person. Like, please do not let me speak after this person. And they said, it's going to be fine. I'm like, no, just, I want to, let me go a couple before, maybe a couple not right before or right after. And I was right after this person. Please switch me. Nope. Line up is stuck. I'm like, if you insist. They really, really wanted to switch me after my talk. Like, we sort of swapped to. I'm like, I know that. Because the speaker before me, their talk was called Managing Your Time Management. My talk was about how time management is a myth. It is literally a myth. Speaker is in the audience horrified that I just obliterated her talk based on science. Like, literally on science. I had quotes from, like, the medical journal. It was bad. It was bad. And I had boosted her up. I'm like, she gave an amazing talk. She's an amazing speaker. She brings up amazing points. I want to give you something a little different to think about. Time management is a myth. And then I just blew it apart. But I was really nice about it. I was really professional about it. And at the end, I was like, again, the speaker before me, amazing talk, amazing points. I invite you to think differently. And the event planner was like, I'm like, I told you I told you, please don't put me right after her or before her. Like, please don't, So there was a little bit of awkwardness, but I believe in energy management. If you control your own energy, because life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react to it. The energy that you give the negativity. I can find a ton of blessings on why the pandemic lockdown is good, or why we are in the way that we are right now and what's great about it, and whatever. Or I could react to it negatively and complain and put myself into a negative spiral. I just choose to look at every situation as a positive situation. Every outcome is positive.
I do as well. Yeah, it
you
is. And it is always, you're making a choice every time about how you want to experience anything that has taken place. And that includes, COVID. And it included, the loss of my father. And I know that there are people right now that are dealing with significant loss, the loss of, a life, the loss of, income. Those things are hard, but you are still choosing the experience that you want to have with it and the meaning that you give it. Because with the loss of my father, I chose that I wanted to do something. I wanted to serve his memory about, how things could be better. If not for him because he wasn't there, but what could I do, for others, the environment? What difference could his loss make? And so I understand that, and that's the thing about, time and the management of it, what you think about the experience that you're creating, because you can't move time. You can move yourself around. There's no going back in time. There's no moving forward, and you only have the moment. And so what can you do in the moment? How can you strengthen yourself in the moment? What can you do to help somebody else in the moment? What can you do to change the trajectory, the path that you're on in the moment? Because that's all you have. You're not guaranteed a moment after that. And so what can you do about it? You can live.
Yep.
You can thrive. You can grow. You can understand what it is that you need to learn about how you can do things better. And that is, the road that I choose to take every day. And it is not the easiest thing to do, which is why I understand so many people are challenged in doing it.
I had a conversation with a friend of mine today about elevating moments. And I just think that if we knew the moments that were coming, for example, you and I have had this show scheduled for a couple weeks. What could we do to elevate this time that we're sharing in each other's energy? If you have a date night coming up, what can you do to really elevate the moment? Usually dates consist of let's go to dinner, let's go to a movie, let's go for a walk in the park, whatever. But what can you do to elevate the moment? Someone's getting married. What can you do to elevate that moment? And so I believe that life is a collection of moments. And the more elevated these moments are, the higher the level of these moments, they become more memorable moments. And then memorable moments become breakthrough moments. And once you achieve that status, once you achieve breakthrough moment status, that's a great place to be.
I totally agree. And what I call it is, elevating your thinking. Because if you learn from the particular moment that you're in, you elevate to the next level of understanding. And that's,
not
for
just
me,
the
that
moment,
has been, yes, exactly.
Right.
And I do think that, we are on a date.
Right.
I had to read, about you, and you read about me, and we learned about each other so that we could, coexist in this conversation. So we are on a talking date. So, yes, and I learned, so much about you, which is why, I was so excited about being on your show. You are so phenomenal. And and what I thought about, which I definitely want to, bring up, is that I had moments when I thought about, how much better could the world be if I wasn't here. So I thought about, I had my own moments of thinking about, suicide. And so I understand what that can do. And what I thought about is how different my child's life would be without me, how different my family's life would be without me. So I wanted to say that you definitely empowered me to want to be on your show and to know more about you, because I'm in awe of what you do as well. And so I wanted to, make sure that I mention that it takes a great deal of courage to get up off the floor, especially, the experience that you had. So, I'm grateful to learn from you as well.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to know about these tips for increasing your personal power. And I first want you to define what personal power is. And we have heard so much this year about people's power, the good, the bad, with everything going on in the world with racism and the privilege and the pandemic. I mean, just everything has just come to light. I think that in the next year or two, even more is going to come out, because you can't hide on social media anymore. Videos are everywhere. Yeah. Everybody has a phone. You can't hide it. Like the scumbags of the earth just cannot hide anymore. You're gonna get smoked down. Someone's gonna take a video and they're gonna put it online. So I think we were forced to have these conversations because everybody's watching it. It's out for the world to see, right? I saw just a couple months ago in Atlanta, they busted up a house that had 26 underage girls that were being sex trafficked. It was like 20 or 30 girls that were missing from all over the country. Sex trafficking rings have been broken up. Crime syndicates have been broken up. Racism has gone to mainstream where, like, everybody can, like, this is what we're talking about. Hello. People have been talking about this for decades. This is what it looks like. We're forced to have these conversations. But I don't think we're having conversations about our own personal power of our life, of what we can and cannot control. So I'd love for you to just take it from here and talk to us about what is personal power and how do we increase it?
Personal power is something that is vital to the individual and is unique to the individual. Most people grow up and they hear, and I should say many people do, and they hear, you should be like Johnny or you should be like Jane. And what you need to understand is how to do you. Because when you do that and you're extraordinary at it, nobody can beat you. And that's the thing about understanding your power, understanding how you create, how you show up, what's beneficial to the work that you do. And most people are spending time trying to replicate what somebody else is doing, how to, be like them, to learn how to be you and understand you. And I talk about, most people, they know more about the manual that came with their car than knowing who they are. And you have to spend time, learning the gears about you, learning, how you think, where your thoughts derive from. That is what makes you your most effective, understanding how your thoughts drive everything that you do and how you align your words, your thoughts, and your actions. That's how you create the outcome that you envision. And if you don't line up those three things, you can't really achieve what your intended goal is. And because thoughts can do one thing, and your words if they don't speak the same thing, you change what your actions become. And most people don't think about the 1, the 2, and the 3, the thoughts, the words, and the actions. And that is what personal power really is about. It's creating what it is that you think about most. Most people don't study their thoughts. They just, think that they let them drift in the wind. And it is really about focusing. And some people think that I don't have time to do this. Well, you don't have time to not do this. That is how you not only change your life, but you change your life generationally for those that follow behind you, those that you are standing with, and understanding more about that. That's how you increase your power, your influence, because your power is not anything that is external to you. Power is internal. And most people are thinking about, how do I create more wealth? How do I, create more material assets? And the thing is that you have to first give those things to your inner being in order for you to magnify them externally. And don't spend time thinking that your self-worth is your net worth, because they're two different things. And that is really what power is about, understanding what it is that you believe about you and increasing that. That is really what personal power is. It makes you your most effective, your most dynamic. And understanding you, that self-knowledge is what makes life extraordinary. That's what it really does for the individual, as well as those that they are connected to, because we are supposed to be creating connectedness. Because in order for you to understand anybody else, you have to first understand yourself. And so the confusion in conversations that people have, that makes them so unrelatable, because they haven't figured out, who am I? What is it that I am great at? Because we all have things that we are good and great at, but most of us don't dig deep in order to find out what that is. And it is like mining for gold. And you have to dig deep, because gold is not on the surface.
I had a breakthrough moment while you were talking about beautifully. The breakthrough moment that, and a theme throughout the through line of what you said, was that we don't study ourselves. We know more about our car manual. We know more about how our phones operate. We know more about how social media operates. We know more about emails and digital and TV. We know everything. We know how to operate most of everything, except we don't know how we tick. We don't know some of our triggers. And is another word that people in the last year or so come to grips with, was that's a trigger for me. That, and it's not a bad word. It's not a ha ha ha, he's triggered, like kind of funny. But people have come to grips with that's like a trigger word for them. That's a trigger moment. It's whatever. But the breakthrough moment for me was when you compared. We know more about the car manual. We know about, and I just kept going with it. We know more about how this operates, and I can, my kids can operate tablets. The kids, the younger generation always knows about the digital and always knows how to do all that stuff. And the older generation is like, wait, how do you do that? Wait, what do I click? What do I do? Like, how's this app work? Kids nailed it, right? But we don't know how we operate. I could take it a step further and say that once you get married, you stop studying your spouse, right?
Yes, exactly.
That was a breakthrough moment for me.
That is exactly what happened. Yeah. And
that was like a bell going off. That's amazing.
It's a bell for me, as well. Yeah, and that's one of the things. And that analogy helps people to really think about. I do. I know more about how my laptop operates. I know more about, like you said, my phone, my Android, my Apple, whatever it is. More about that. And we're so impressed but that our youth, our children, our grandchildren, whatever they may be, that they know so much about technology. And then we never talk about, I'm really impressed about how much you know about yourself, because that is really what makes you special.
Mm-hmm. Do you have kids?
Yes, my daughter, yes, I do have one child. Yes, I do.
So was it hard to shop for Christmas for them? Like, did you know exactly what they wanted?
I did. You never know exactly, what a child wants. That I think that I literally think that it's impossible to know exactly what anybody wants,
right.
Unless you really, you have a deep understanding of what it is that they want to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
But what I definitely know to give is love, which is something that I focus in on and hone in on, because I think that more than anything, more than any gift, that's the gift that most people are searching for. How to be loved for who they are.
For sure. The reason I ask is I again, reflecting and internalizing what you're saying. And I found that me and my wife were, Christmas shopping for our kids. It was like, do you think she would like that? Like, I don't know if is she into that stuff? Like, that toy. Like, I don't know if she's going to like that. You think she'll like that? Now, I mean, they always write Christmas lists. We have a 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, 14, and a 17. We always tell them, hey, man, go ahead and write your Christmas lists, and we'll send them to Santa, the whole thing. And as we look at it, okay, we know what they want, cool. But we see something else. We're like, ooh, I wonder if they'd like that. But then how many times are people in a store going, oh, they're so hard to shop for? I heard this in Target. They're like, yeah, but they're so hard to shop for.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we knew them, really studied them, whether it be our partner, friends, family, coworkers, if we really studied that person, would we be saying the same thing? Would we be saying they're so hard to shop for? Or would we say, I know exactly what to get them and I know they will love it?
Yep. Totally. Because I can tell
back
you.
to what you were saying.
Yeah. My daughter is much older now than your children. But what I can say is that I didn't understand this. I had to teach myself this, that I needed to study my child. I needed to understand what it is that she wanted and not what I wanted her to have. That was the difference. And that's what most people are giving. They're giving what they think the person deserves or what they feel that the person should have, and not listening for what the person is asking for. So that is a key factor in understanding somebody else's life and how they are experiencing it, because most people are trying to give from their personal experience and not the individuals that they're giving to. So that was part of the book, 50 Tips for Increasing Your Personal Power. That's what the book is really about. Those tips are about how do you not only look at yourself, but how do you look at how what you are doing, what experience are you creating for somebody else? And are you giving? We're talking about giving right now. Are you giving to get, or is it, giving? There's a difference, because when you're giving to get, that's not really giving. And most people they're waiting on, the thank you, the appreciation, the awe. And that's not really what giving is about. You have to give it unconditionally. That's what giving is about. You don't expect anything back, whether they say thank you or not. You've done it because you know that is who you are, not waiting on somebody else to recognize that about you. That's what personal power is about.
I love that. I absolutely love that. That's a great, great way to end the show. Wow. That was deep. That's a reflection moment.
Well, thanks so much for having me. I really, I love the subject matter and love being here with you. And, this was a thrilling, exciting conversation. So I loved every moment. You are spectacular. I appreciate you.
Thank you. You as well. You got me thinking. I got work to do. You got me thinking. Growth moment. I got to know myself.
Well,
and, there's Myers-Briggs and DISC and 4 lenses. And, there's a bunch of other, I could see how I operate that way. But really, there's some work to do. Maybe don't know exactly. I know the big jumping off points, right? Like I know my morals and values and lines I won't cross and things like that and interests and things like that. But I want to go deeper. What is my passion? What moments am I missing that had I capitalized on those or will capitalize will make all the difference? And, as I go through a big transition in 2021 of retiring from active duty military after 20 years, I'm going to have to figure that out real fast. So it's coming up quick.
Well, I can definitely say that learning about you is a lifelong journey, and you should never stop, because when you just always want to be filling that book up because the manual is always growing. So there's always new aspects to learn about yourself. So, yeah, definitely do you and be extraordinary at it. That's what I always say. Yeah.
Love it. That's a great message for the listeners and a great way to end the show. Marie, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was everything that I hoped it would be and more. You are an absolute rock star, and I wish you nothing but the best in 2021.
You too, Sean. Happy 2021. Much success to you and your audience. Love you.
Thank you so much. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around her. If any part of our conversation today resonated with you, please reach out on LinkedIn and Facebook to Marie Roberts de la Parra. Her website is right there in the show notes. Go ahead and click on that. When you send her a friend request, let her know that you heard the episode of Life Transformation Radio. As I close the show, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live an amazing life.